Hey guys, my name is Neel and welcome to Neel Workshop Zone. So in this episode we will be learning about more stuff regarding JavaScript, and in this episode especially we will be learning about the different types of events and strings. So in the previous episodes we talked about objects, classes and the main definition of what are events. So if you haven't checked out, recommend checking out those episodes because watching those episodes will make you understand this episode much more better. But without further ado, let's talk about it. So like I said in my previous episode, we talked about events and what events are. So in this episode, without further ado, let's talk about the types of events. So there are many types of events and they are pretty simple to understand. So the first one is on change. We have on click, on load, and let me just bring it up. On mouse over, on mouse out, on key down. So these six are the types of events that we can see most of the time occur in code. So first let's talk about on change. So on change occurs when the user attempts some sort of change in the HTML element. So for example, let us assume that in the code that you're writing, the user has attempted to somehow change some element in the website. So for example, let us say he changed the value of some number, or let us assume that you have put up some sort of application form and the user has filled it. So technically he has changed the element of the web page. So in that case, the on change event can occur, and it happens so that you can use this in your code to write some sort of interactive code, which happens basically that if an on change event occurs, in that case a specific code should be run. And speaking of the next one, we have on click. So it is pretty self-explanatory. If an HTML element is clicked by the user, in that case the on click event occurs. On load is basically when a web page is loaded. So let us say that a web page after being refreshed by the user is loaded, or a new link is opened through the web page. In that case the on load event occurs, and then you have on mouse over and on mouse out, which are basically if you hover your mouse over a specific HTML element, you can make this sort of events occur where, as if a user hovers the mouse over that element, the on mouse over event occurs, and if it's removed, then the on mouse out event occurs. And then we have on key down, in which case if a user types on his keyboard and the key is pressed down on his keyboard, in that case the on key down event can occur. So this is basically about events and the types of events. So events is a pretty simple concept, but now let's talk about strings, which is a really important concept. So strings are used commonly in JavaScript, not only in JavaScript but also in Python, Java, HTML, etc. So strings are pretty self-explanatory, but there are still a lot of rules. So strings are keywords, or basically objects that you can use. Not only objects, they are basically variables, but imagine instead of numbers you have letters. That is basically strings in a nutshell. So strings are mostly used in a common JavaScript code. So for example, you can write something like let x is equals to Neel. So this is basically how you can define a string, and a string is defined by quotes. And it can be double or single. So if the word over here is written in single quotes instead of double quotes, then it won't cause any error, because a string can be written both single quotes and double quotes. And this rule of double and single quotes can also lead to some problems, because if you're writing something where you wrote something like let x is equals to his name is Neel. That's assume. So if you write something like this, it has a possibility of causing an error because you have used double quotes or different types of quotes inside of the same code. So this would most likely lead to an error. So to overcome this, we have different ways. Well, not different ways. There is a specific symbol that you can use to overcome that, but we'll come back to it in just a second. Basically, before we talk about that, we also need to talk about text length. So, let us assume that you're writing a really big paragraph of strings and you want to define that inside one string. So let us assume you wrote let para is equals to, and you've written some very long code inside the one string. And imagine you now want to find out exactly the number of strings that it has taken, or the number of letters present in the string. In that case, what you can do is you can use text.length. By using this command, we can basically figure out the number of text that we can have inside of the paragraph and the letters that is present inside of it. So now, the way we can use different how we can say it, different types of quotations inside of the quotes are basically by using a backslash and a quote. By using a backslash and a single quote, you can basically activate single quotes inside of the quote. So for example, instead of writing something like let x is equals to his name is Neel, instead of writing a quote like this, which will lead an error, you can instead write it something similar to slash single quote Neel and slash single quote and single quote. By putting this, it will basically make the computer understand and the code understand that Neel needs to be written in single quotes and it has no connection whatsoever to the entire code. And similarly, if you write double quotes right here, in that case it will be written in double quotes. So his name is double quotes Neel. And similarly, you can use this while writing code so that the code does not get confused. And yeah, that is basically about strings. Strings isn't really a complicated concept. It is a pretty simple concept. It is basically a string of letters, as you can say, or a group of letters can basically be written as a string. So yeah, that is basically about the types of events and strings that can occur in the code. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out any new videos. And that's all folks, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.